My name is Brad. I'm with Aaron Limited. I'm going to be doing the training on the generator set today. First off, I'd like to state that any information should be referred to back to the manuals on the equipment for the most up-to-date, precise, and exact operating procedures for the equipment. We are currently standing in the generator room, which is attached kind of to the parkade across from the back entrance to the building. And starting with this side of the generator, the right-hand side, if looking at it from the back, the first thing we see is our auxiliary load panel. This is called our shore panel. What is provided in here is AC power to the generator. So this provides us power for things like our battery charger, block heater, and in here is also for the building management system. Up at the side of the generator frame, on this side, we have both of our starting batteries. It's a 24-volt system, so it's using both batteries in series to start the generator. Battery replacements should be done approximately every 4 years, but they should be tested twice a year by code. Moving up on the gen set itself, on this side we have our fuel filtration. It has a primary and a secondary fuel filter. The primary fuel filter also has a water separation to it. It's on inspections and testing, worth unscrewing it slightly, and any water that was in the fuel that got caught up in the filter will drain out. It's to keep water from in our fuel injection system. To the right of that, marked with green, is our oil level dipstick. Very similar to just a standard automobile. It's got high level and a low level, just 2 dots. Oil level should be always in between it. On the front is where our drive belts for our accessories are. The belt doesn't necessarily have a service replacement date, but it's to be inspected and monitored for its condition, whether it's wearing improperly or if debris has gotten to it. Generally, they last a very long time because gen sets do not see a ton of run hours. Up in the front, we have our charge air cooler. This is our intercooler for our pressurized turbocharged air going into the intake. And in front of that is our engine radiator. Our engine radiator has a cap up at the top in the middle of it. Just a standard conventional radiator cap for adding fluid to it if need be. The level is monitored on the radiator, so if our level drops down below a certain point, it will throw an alarm and actually shut down the unit itself. It's just filled with conventional 50-50 pre-mixed antifreeze, or you can mix it yourself even, but something that is applicable with any colors that will mix with it, unless doing a whole complete replacement, which is only due every 5 years. The unit itself is mounted on its fuel tank. Filling is performed from the outside of the building. There is a fill box on the wall. For fuel level on the unit, if it is above 90%, it will throw a high level warning. This is done so for a light on the outside of the building to give an indication to the fueling driver that stop fueling the unit. B, for expansion in the tank. When the fuel if the fuel increases in temperature, the level will increase. That's why we want to keep it not really any higher than 90%, because it bode the risk of overfueling it if it got hot. You always want to, as much as possible, fill it with winter blend diesel. So even in summer months, if you're fueling it, try to specifically request winter diesel fuel. You don't necessarily know how long the fuel is going to be sitting in this. It could be up to years on end if the unit is not running much or not running much under heavy load. So if it were to get cold in this room, for example, it could cause the fuel to gel. Pretty unlikely being that's inside. It has a low level warning at 20%, which will send out an alarm letting you know that, hey, it needs fuel, and it'll continue to run. At 10%, it has a low fuel level shutdown, which will actually shut the unit down and stop the generator operation. That's done so we can simply refuel the unit versus having to refuel the unit and do a complete system prime of it. Towards the middle here, kind of hard to see because of our shore panel, is our air filter for the unit. On the opposite side, we have an indicator for it, a vacuum indicator. It's a little, I'll show it on the other side, but it's a little yellow line. Once the air filter becomes obstructed and dirty, it'll end up sucking that indicator up, and once it gets into a red zone, that's when it's due to replace the air filter. Once again, generally air filters long service lives on generators just due to low run hours. Go around to the other side. If you want with the video, you can kind of probably get a good view of the rad cap there, as well as you guys can probably see it a bit better. And to the left of the radiator cap, so up at the top of the radiator, you see the one sensor there. That is our coolant level sensor. If the level drops below that sensor, it will shut down the unit. On this side, we have both our engine oil filters, 2 filters just to filter out the volume, same filters. Our coolant expansion tank is mounted down low. Any excess of coolant when it expands and gets hot will be pushed into the expansion tank. When the unit cools, it'll draw back in that coolant. The level in the tank will constantly fluctuate. Currently it's at about half, but if it were to get hot, you'd see that level increase, and when it cooled down, possibly even decrease. There's a high level and a low level. As long as it's always above the low level, you're good to go. If it gets below that, it runs the issue of possibly sucking in air into our cooling system. Not the end of the world, but we avoid it as best as possible. I forgot to show it on the other side, but our oil drain tube goes out the bottom through the frame, and there is a ball valve just directly inside the frame. You can get a shot of that in a minute, but that's how you drain the oil out of the unit. Refilling is done through a cap on the valve cover directly behind the turbocharger here. It's a bright yellow cap, 15W40, decent quality diesel engine oil, diesel generator set. Engine oil should be changed once a year. By code, it is mandated that that's to be done by a certified generator service technician, whether a company like myself or one of the other companies that does it in the area. At that time, on the annual service is what it's called, the engine oil filters, fuel filters, and comprehensive inspection of the unit will be performed, including load testing of the batteries and load testing of the generator itself. So load testing of the generator, it'll be remotely hooked up to a panel on the outside wall of the building and ran at full capacity for 2 hours. This is done to eliminate a potential issue called wet stacking, as well as to guarantee the unit is fully operational to its maximum capacity. Here's the indicator for our air filter, as I mentioned there on the other side. Just a little yellow line that will move up, and when it gets to the red zone, that means the air filter has become obstructed and is due for replacement. Down on the bottom is our block heater for the unit. This will be on year-round. It's got its own thermostat in it, so it'll shut off when the temperature gets to the point where it's too warm, but it'll come back on when it's cool enough to kick back on. It circulates kind of through just radiation, and it'll end up keeping the whole engine at about 110 to 115 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. We want to keep it warm even in the summer months just for quickness of starting. The whole unit itself has to start and be carrying your building in sub 10 seconds, which it does. 2 outlets here, a 240 volt one, which is dedicated for our coolant heater, as well as a 110 volt one. The 110 volt one is generally just there if you're working on the unit, need to plug in a light, plug in a battery charger, something of that nature. Moving on, we'll go to the controller of the generator. 2 screens, both can be changed. The left screen generally is kept on the volt and amp page. This will show us our generator's output, volts, amps, kilowatts, and frequency. It's the most common page to keep there because just kind of monitor what the generator is doing and how it's outputting voltage, and it's needed to when you record down your readings for inspections, testing, of that nature. On the right display, it's currently showing we're in an alarm. Whenever an alarm happens on the unit, the right display will change to the alarm page immediately. The alarm currently is warning for high fuel level because we're above that threshold. If it were to throw an alarm, you might have to go reset the fire alarm panel here. The unit will enunciate through its own buzzer, as well as the enunciator in its inside will, it's probably going to do another, no. As well as the enunciator inside will buzz, as well as your fire alarm panel will buzz. You're going to notice that if the generator throws an alarm, it's going to be someone calling you. So it'll now show the most current alarm that happened at the top, shutdown emergency stop. To reset a shutdown alarm, so an alarm that would stop the unit's operation, the key switch needs to be turned to the off position, into the middle, and then it can be acknowledged. Whenever the key switch is in the off position, it will also throw an alarm, letting you know that the generator is not ready to run, essentially. Once the key goes back to automatic, that non-auto alarm will clear. So you get an alarm, come out to the unit, see what the alarm is, try to reset it, flip your key to off, hit enter, try a restart. Inspect kind of based off of what the alarm may be, if it's low coolant level. When the radiator cools down, check your coolant level, see that it has proper coolant in it. If needed, add a bit. If it shuts down for a high engine temp, take a quick inspection, make sure that the ventilation louvers in the room have opened, stuff of that nature. Anything much more, give us a call, 1204-958-6800. I'll give you guys my card. A unit's under a 5-year warranty, so don't be afraid to call. On the right display here, if we hit the center button, which is home, it'll take us to a page which shows us our engine parameters. This page will show us our engine oil pressure, engine oil temperature, our coolant temperature, our battery voltage, and on the very bottom, which is hard to see from this angle, but our fuel level. Kind of the most common page to keep on, because between this and your volts and amp page gives you pretty much all the information you need for just basic operation of the unit. Pressing the menu button will take us into our menu selection. The first option is the alarms page. So if you wanted to see why it's an alarm because someone else came out here and already changed pages, you can hit enter and it'll take you to back to your alarm page. Hitting menu again, we can go down one, and this is our engine tab. This gives us a bit more details about our engine, including our battery charger output, our engine RPM. You can cycle through the pages by hitting enter. Each page holds three lines, and yeah, hit enter and it'll take you to the next page. This is how you can get your total run hours of the unit, currently just under 10. Our coolant level monitors it with that sensor, and it'll tell you our actual level, and then it'll eventually cycle through, show us our engine ECU fault codes if there were any, and just once you're at the end, it'll go back to the start. Hitting menu again, you can go down 2 more, and it'll take us to status. Status will show us a baseline of what is going on with the unit, where's the key switch, what's it doing, is it running, is it supplying load, all of that good nature. Very bottom is service. This is for service reminders. Generally, we don't bother setting them because it's just kind of, they're not actually going to go off before the code required servicing in majority of cases, unless we had an extreme outage where the unit is running for a prolonged period of time. But realistically, the unit gets serviced before the service reminders would ever run up, and then they just kind of ends up being a nuisance eventually. Back to the menu, if we go right with the arrow to our left display, this will allow us to change what is being shown on the left display. So another good one on this page is if you go down to alarm log. It'll start cycling through current or past alarms on the left display. I'll start with the first one and I'll go down and just keep cycling through them until I believe it keeps track of 30 of them. But they'll be the 30 most recent alarms that have happened on the generator. You can go back up on the right display to volts and keep it back at that page. Menu. If we go right and down, generator, this is basically our volts page again, but we can cycle through and get a bit more detailed information for mostly for servicing and testing to see our power factor of the building, our rated power, kilowatts, kVA, all that good stuff. And if we go right and down to, we get to diagnostics. This is for service work to be done to test if we're having an issue with an input or output of the controller, get our analog input values, all that good stuff, as well as our Modbus registry if we want to connect to the Modbus of the building. And then finally, we go right and down is the exercise page. The unit is not set up to auto exercise. Realistically, it could be done, but preferred not to be done. Whenever you want to run the generator, I'd recommend it is entirely automated in its function, but if you're doing testing on it, I would recommend being at least aware and around and doing a preliminary inspection of the unit if possible. I know middle of the night when the power goes out and this thing automatically starts, you can't do that, but it's worth just checking when you can versus having it run all the time unsupervised, in my professional opinion. If the need or request was ever there in the future, we can set up automatic run timer or automatic exercise. Sorry, one more thing I should mention. The key switch is 3 positions. Automatic, off, and manual. Auto is where the key switch needs to always be in. That means it's waiting for the signal from our transfer switch to start and waiting for, basically, if it's not an auto, it's not going to run automatically. Off is to do maintenance inspections, testing, anything of that nature. It's how you isolate the unit so you can service it, isolate it so you can get a better look at your belts and not get your hand chopped off if it automatically starts, any of that nastiness. And then if we go to the right one more, it will manually start the unit, and as long as the key is in that position, it will continue to run manually. Flipping it back to off will turn it off, or any shutdown alarm will also shut it off. We'll do that here in a moment. This is our main control breaker out to our distribution panel, which is also in this room. This breaker is the lifeblood of the generator. It's feeding all the power the generator is making out to the building, well, out to the distribution. If the breaker were to trip or be left off, it's going to throw an alarm, and you'll have the alarm on the controller, main control breaker tripped. It'll do the same thing if someone leaves it off for whatever reason, but it needs to always be on, otherwise this thing will be running out here and it's not going to be powering anything. Resetting the breaker, if it were to trip, it'll end up in about a halfway position. I recommend shutting down the generator beforehand, going down with it all the way to the off position, and once in the off position, go back up into on. It's pretty firm. You got to be very committed with it. You got to jam the fucking thing apart, pretty much. And then we can clear my alarm on that. Yeah, cleared itself. So realistically, what you guys will be doing as site maintenance, monthly inspections is what it's called. That's what is required by code to be done. So what you're going to want to do, got a logbook here. You're going to have to keep track of it. Haven't done one yet, so we can kind of go through it quickly. But first thing will be recording of the date, the hours before, the hours after, your fuel level, your oil level. It could be just a check mark, your coolant level, check mark, coolant rated. It's minus 40 rated coolant in the thing. And battery level, that's not applicable because there's sealed batteries on this guy. Lamp test, basically make sure all the indications are working and flashing as they need to be. Battery charger, make sure our charger is on. It's kind of hard to see on this guy, but if the battery charger were to fail, it's going to throw an alarm. Question for you, Vinny. Did it ever get changed over the emergency panel so if power is dead to the building, the generator is powering our shore panel? Because what would happen before is when the power would go out, this guy would get battery charger fault because it's not powering its own battery charger. It's just kind of a nuisance missed in the initial drawings of the, so I'm not sure if that ever got corrected or not.
Ran and dealt with it?
And it's all good?
Then it's all good.
Okay, fair enough. So anytime the power actually fails here, you're going to get a battery charger alarm. Not actually important at the time being because the unit will be running off its DC alternator and charging itself and maintaining voltage that way for everything it needs to power on itself. Solar, fuel injection, you know, all that good stuff. Pretty much just fuel injection in the controller. Once the power comes back on, you'll still see that battery charger fault on there, but your battery charger will actually be charging. The fault will not clear until you flip the key to the off position and back into automatic. You won't have that happen on test. It'll just be any times the actual power fails to the building. Back to this. So how I got off on that tangent, pardon, is battery charger. It's the only way to really see is through the engine page on the controller. Hit enter, and the second page of it, it'll show you battery charger output current. So it's outputting about 0.7 of an amp right now. Voltage phase to phase, current, frequency, kilowatts, that will all be given from this display. So what you'll do, you'll come out, give it an inspection, make sure there's no debris that's going to get caught up in it, make sure nothing's living on the thing, you know, no bird has made a nest in your belts, no leaks have transpired over the past month miraculously. Make sure a coolant heater is good. Just give the guy a feel. Be kind of warm to the touch. Make sure it's normal. The more you do it, the more you'll get familiar and you'll start to know what normal is on it. After that point, you'll go into the transfer switch room, which we'll show you in a little bit here, and perform a test with the transfer switch. That test will be an hour long. It's going to actually start the generator from over there, transfer over power, so the lights will flicker quickly, and the generator will then be powering the emergency circuit of the building. When that's happening, come back in the room, inspect once in a while. You don't have to stand here, eyes glued to it for an hour straight, making sure that it's still running, but check it regularly, monitor it, record down your volts, your current, your frequency, everything basically shown in this display. Record down your oil pressure, your coolant temperature, stuff that's all going to be shown in this display. And at the end of the hour, it's going to transfer itself back, run a cool down, shut down, and then come back in and just give it a brief inspection as well. Make sure everything's all good still. It didn't start a leak, didn't catch on fire, nothing, crazy happened. No one came in here and started living in here. But basically, that's a monthly inspection. It is required to be done. Inspectors from the city occasionally will come out and actually monitor or actually check in and make sure it's being done and all that nature, because it is a life safety appliance. Now, if the building management so was inclined, it's a service we can offer as well, and we can build a quote for that if your on-site maintenance did not want to do that. But it is something that could be done by on-site trained staff, so yourselves. Moving on, we'll show manually running this guy. We're going to get pretty noisy in here. So the key switch, generally it's going to be in our auto position. We'll flip it to off. It's going to beep at us. Hit enter, and that will silence it. And then you'll flip it to manual, and the unit will fire up and do its thing. Clean in here a bit too, because as you saw, papers flying, dust blowing. So that's what I mean by you want to keep debris free from it, because it'll just end up getting sucked. Our fan is pushing out, it'll suck stuff through. Fan blades are plastic. You get something big enough in there, you can take out a fan blade, and then it's going through your intercooler, and that's a very bad day. Our fresh air intake, just gonna flip this guy back to auto. Our fresh air intake for the generator room is this set of louvers on the wall here. So as soon as the unit starts, these will begin to open. Did Ainsworth actually? We can run it. We'll run it a bit more. They fixed it? Yeah. Okay.
Fix it, that I don't.
Well,
They must.
it opens as soon as it starts. That can't modulate. It's got to open. I need the air in the room. Yeah. Yeah. So these guys will open as soon as the generator starts and start drawing air through. We need the fresh air in the room. So it's going to eventually start getting pretty cold in this room, doing it in the winter. But we need the air for the generator to run. The louvers behind the camera guy there, those ones are our recirc louvers. Those will always be open. We need a place for the air to be pushed by the radiator or pushed by our rad fan to go on startup. So recirc it back to the room. But as temperature starts to increase in here, it will open the louvers to the outside, push the hot air out, and these guys will begin to close. Just always need air. Whether it's coming into the room or going out of the room, it's required. Otherwise, this thing's going to get hot and it's not going to be happy. No, it will not. It's an emergency generator. We need it to run. We need it to run. There's shutdowns that will stop function of it, but something like that, it's going to still try to run. It will overheat. That will eventually happen if none of the louvers open, because it's just going to be recirculating hot air. Won't take even too terribly long, but that will happen, but it's going to try to run. Because, part of it, yeah, it's nice to have stairway lighting, nice to have elevator, but it does the fire pump here, right? Yeah. So if there's a fire, they cut off power, we kind of need this to run pretty. One more thing here I didn't point out. I was going to show both of them. But this is exhaust drain. Condensation will happen in the exhaust system. Moisture can get in slightly from the outside. It's just a drain line. Crack it once in a while. Any water in the exhaust will come out. Prevents rust buildup, water sitting in there, and all that. So do it every monthly. Pop by, give it a smack, close it, done. This is our emergency power distribution. So from the breaker on the generator, comes into this guy. Is it locked? Comes into this guy, and then we got 3 feeds. One being to our load bank panel, which is installed.
It's installed.
Installed,
We
perfect.
kept it off.
Yeah, yeah. Load bank panel is for remote tie-ins for when we do our annual load testing of it. The 2-hour load test, we bring a big toaster, hook up our own cables, run it for 2 hours. So this guy pretty much entirely can be left off. If it's on, you can flip it off. Do whatever, keep it off. Above that is our transfer switch emergency. So that's the transfer switch that I'll be going over. It's the one that you'll be testing with, and that's the one that does the elevator, the lights, everything other than the fire pump. The fire pump has its own breaker. So fire pump and transfer switch emergency, those breakers always on. Beside it, emergency stop for the generator. So if you're in here, holy crap, something's going wrong, you slap that without having to run all the way around the generator to the opposite side. And slap it, close the door, get out. You know, stop and prevent it.
Reset it.
Resetting the emergency stop, beep, it's a twist. Give it a slight twist, it'll pop out. Got to go back over to the generator, reset the fault on the generator. Yeah, that's probably been beeping this whole time. Yep. Yep. There's a combustible air fan up in the room. You hear it running right now. That fan will always be running. It's always drawing air out or in the room. I can't remember exactly, one or the other.
Let me see.
Yeah, taken out. Yeah, that's what I thought.
For exhaust.
Yeah, so that fan is always drawing air out of the room if there is combustible gas in here. If that fan were to fail, it will throw an alarm. Yeah. So anytime you're in here summer, you'll hear that thing running. If you don't, your fire alarm should be beeping at you. That's a requirement. Yeah, so just servicing of it, yeah. Semi-annual inspections are to be done as well by a certified person, so a generator company. That's kind of the way the servicing will work is you'll do 5 monthlies yourselves probably. 6 month, it'll be a generator company comes out, they'll do a semi-annual, a monthly with a lot more checks, more thorough inspection of the batteries, and transfer test as well at that time, and then 5 more monthlies go by, and then it's the annual servicing where getting new oil, getting new fuel filters, load banked, transfer tests, inspected, tested. Every 5th year is required a quintennial service is what it's called. That is new antifreeze, new thermostat, check the valves, insulation test our generator end, and clean the radiator. Realistically, he was asking about the fire alarm panel and asking about the procedure leading up to a monthly inspection on contacting the alarm company. So what you want to do, call the alarm company, let them know, hey, I'm doing generator testing today. Can I get troubles and supervisories offline for 3 hours? Gives you tons of time. Fire protection doesn't need to come off. Realistically, you probably want fire protection on in case something happens. So just troubles and supervisories. You'll get a supervisory signal on the panel for generator run, and that's probably all you're going to get on the panel. So if you choose to bypass your fire alarm panel, that's on yourself, or you can just simply do acknowledge and a panel reset at the very end. So 2 ways to do it. You can bypass the signals or just acknowledge and reset at the end. And then when you're finished up, if you're finished up before 3 hours, call the alarm company and make sure it gets put back online because they sometimes forget. They are human. This is transfer switch emergency. We're currently in the mechanical room beside the back door to the building. This is the brains of the operation for the generator. Our generator is simply sitting there in automatic, waiting for this to tell it to start. The switch operates by monitoring our utility voltage at all times, so the incoming power to the building. If that voltage were to dip down below a set point, increase above a set point, our frequency decrease or a frequency increase, basically a bad power, it's going to call the generator to start. Once it sees our generator voltage as accepted, so in a stable, good range, it will then automatically transfer to the generator itself. Once utility power is then stabilized or returns if it is a complete outage, it will then start a process of transferring back to utility power. As soon as utility power comes back on, it will not transfer right away. We have a time delay in there to prevent unnecessary transfers and interruptions. So common thing, Manitoba Hydro fix whatever bag took out their power line. They flip back in the fuses, pops instantly because there's another thing down the line. That's why we have that time delay. It prevents unnecessarily transferring back, forth, all that. A good amount of time I actually see generators running due to over voltage situations. If our main hydro feed is above a certain threshold, it'll call the generator to start and run. That's a good thing to do because it'll protect motors from over voltage situations, all the mechanical in the building, it protects it from that as well. It doesn't have to be a complete blackout of power for it to want to transfer to the generator. The switch itself is a bypass isolation. That means there's two mechanisms inside of this. The automatic mechanism is in the bottom, and the bypass mechanism is about midway up on it. The bypass mechanism is used for servicing of the switch. It'll allow me to bypass power going to the automatic switch so I can be removed and serviced, inspected, tested without interruption to the building power. Also a handy feature if there was ever an issue or fault with the automatic mechanism, we can then bypass the switch and continue having power without having to do a whole complete recap or something of that nature. Bypassing it will only generally be done during service work, so it's not something that you will regularly have to encounter. If it is something that comes up, the instructions are written on it, as well as feel free to contact us or your generator service provider for guidance if it were to happen. It can only be bypassed into the source that it's already in. That's an important detail, but it covers all that and it interlocks what you can and can't do. To the right of our bypass and isolation crank is the main controller. This display will kind of show you what the transfer switch is seeing, what's going on. It can be cycled through with the arrow keys. The first arrow to the right, it'll show us our normal voltage. So it'll show us our current voltage, our phase rotation, if there is a voltage unbalance. So if one leg was lower than the other two, our frequency, and it'll just sit there bouncing around showing what's kind of going on with power to the building. Next page will show us our emergency source. Our emergency source is the generator. It'll show what the voltage of the generator is, the volt unbalance, the frequency, and the phase rotation. It's monitoring that as well. What you'll do with the transfer switch on your monthly testing is up at the top, we have a knob. It's transfer control is what the knob is called. Turning it to the right and holding it for approximately 15 seconds, it will start and begin the transfer sequence for the generator. So we'll go through that right now. On our display, it's showing that we're in test mode. Our generator has started. We're seeing source accepted, and release that. The first thing it'll do is a time delay pre-transfer. That signal is going out to the elevator to let it know that emergency power or a transfer is about to happen. It'll then do an in-phase transfer. So in phase, we're looking for our sine waves to be as close as possible with our voltage and frequency to be as close as possible. It makes it as seamless of a transition as possible, lessens wear on the actual mechanism, as well as when it transfers, it's a lot less drastic. So it's about to transfer, there's power transfer. Very seamless. I've even had computers not even shut off with doing transfers like that. Our post-transfer timer, that's kind of going back to the elevator, letting it know it's to do something. I don't exactly know what it's telling the elevator. And now we'll start an hour timer. So this hour timer is how long the generator needs to run for. So at this point, you go back out to the generator with your logbook, start recording values, start watching it, making sure all is good. Realistically, if you just left, came back an hour and 15 minutes later, the generator would be shut off, it'd be back to normal power, and it'd be like nothing ever happened. So I'm just gonna silence this. I didn't do that. I'm not allowed to touch those. That's supervisory, yeah. Huh? Supervisory, and it silence it. But yeah, just no beeping in my head. So it'll run its hour timer. This is your monthly inspection, right? You'll go out, check it, make sure it's good, make sure everything's happy, no leaks, it's not caught on fire, nothing crazy is happening. If during your process something comes up, you have to leave, you can't finish doing it right then and there, with the transfer control switch, you can go to the left with it and it's retransfer delay bypass. So that 10-minute delay, 1 hour delay, it'll skip it and it'll go back to the process of our pre-transfer, in-phase, and then our post-transfer. The lights up at the top are a quick indication to tell you kind of what's going on. The green ones are normal power, red ones are emergency power. Just quick transfer. Bottom two show if the source is good. Top two show only one will be lit up, where our transfer switch is actually in position of. So it just transferred back to normal power and our lights switched. After it does its transfer back, our timers, the generator will run a 5-minute cool down. So it's just running by itself. It's not powering the building. Running a cool down, letting it cycle cooler, oil, cooler, coolant through it. Just letting it go to bed cool. After that, it's going to automatically shut itself down. Any servicing issues, got to be a qualified person to work inside of this. We got 2 live sources of 600 volt. You don't want to be playing around in there. It is a quick way to have a bad day. Yeah. Questions? Correct. Yep. Correct. Monthly inspections can be done by qualified, trained facility staff. I got a logbook, which it doesn't really give you a checklist, but it kind of is like tells you what to look at. Should have the semi-annual done, and then the annual. I'm not sure what would be the best date to kind of go off of for start, because it hasn't, questions about servicing again and that nature. It hasn't really is turned over, but it hasn't necessarily really, the building hasn't been turned over. So I don't know what would be the best start date to kind of go off of for that 6-month, 1-year cycle. But probably not far off from early summer, it should be getting its first annual service. Semi-annual technically would be probably due pretty close. I can't remember the exact date I started it up. I think it's only been 2 or 3 months. It hasn't been too long. Mechanical. Basically, us, Air Unlimited, Generac, the generator. That's us. Generator, fuel tank, that's us. Bit of the exhaust system, but that's what we provided. Yeah, they got their stickers on everything in there. The fire pump will be a different company as well. That'll be through whoever, Protelic or whoever started it up, more than likely. There's also, on that unit, it's called a gateway module. It works off cellular service, and you can actually log in on your phone and view your fuel level, your voltages, all that good stuff through your phone. I don't have a manual for that. I could get down one of your guys' contact info and we could set you up with it. Whoever kind of is going to be the person more in charge with it. Loading, loading, loading. You'll also get emails anytime it runs. Yeah, I'll grab that here at the end. So this is essentially what you'll be able to see. Any alarms with the unit, its statuses, so running, it's running. Supplying load, that's our main control breaker on the generator. Warning alarm, you can scroll down to the bottom, see warning alarm, it's going to be because our fuel level's too high, yeah. You can see our output voltage, our frequency, all that good stuff. So realistically, you can do a monthly inspection from your room, you know?
Works off a cellular connection.
That's correct, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So yeah, I could set you guys up with that. Yeah, it's kind of handy.
Okay.
They just started actually shipping the generator sets with that module installed. It's super, super convenient because easy way to monitor. Yeah. Yep. One more thing to show you guys inside the main building there, the annunciator panel. In the office is the remote annunciator panel for the generator. This is connected just to the generator itself. It is a panel which relays messages from the generator and shows it in the form of a light or a buzzer alarm. If the generator were to throw a fault, it's going to illuminate a corresponding light for said fault, or there is generic ones. If the generator is running, it's going to light up generator run. If it were to have a communication error with the generator, it's going to light up, and it's going to buzz extremely loud, where it'd be audible throughout easily the office and main floor here. To silence it in the event of a nuisance kind of alarm, like say you're at 19% fuel level and it's buzzing, reset alarm will silence the panel for pretty much until another fault comes into it. Other than that, there's really not much to be done with it. Just ensure that kind of you see the lights on it. If these are the normal lights to see, gen power, meaning the breaker is on the generator, system ready, meaning the generator's in automatic, and communication okay. It just relays what the generator is doing. It doesn't have anything to do with their transfer switch. Pretty simple. It's just going to sit there and beep. No, it's ran off. It is, the question was it connected to a breaker? It is not. It's ran off DC power from the generator.
DC power.
Yeah, so the generator batteries are powering it. Yeah, so the 5 years inspection is a quintennial inspection. A service, I guess I should say. That's coolant, thermostat. I went over it earlier. Checking the valves, installation test of the windings, cleaning the radiator, and all that good stuff.